Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 470 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, I'm not only asking you to agree with me, I'm asking you to hear me out. On Thursday Night Football, we got a clear picture of essentially where the Commanders are right now and where the Eagles are right now. I'm gonna talk about both, obviously, but let's just focus on the game. If you want to take a micro approach and just look at this game, what this game would have showed you is games can change in an instant. Things can change in an instant. Mistakes can get magnified with how you or how the team responds after said mistake. There are times when a mistake can sink a team. There are times when a mistake can just be a mistake at that moment and it doesn't really affect the team. It's all about how you respond and how the other team responds. You know, we saw mistakes throughout the entire game. Like for the Eagles, their kicker, he missed two field goals and one or two extra points. The man missed, I think, 7 points was left off the board because of their kicker. Now, usually, that could be a death sentence, at least for the game. You know, kicking is important. It's important because that's pretty much the last line of a defense, the last line of achievement. If you're able to have a solid kicking game, it just helps. It's like a safety blanket. So when you don't have a good kicking game or you struggle, that's why you see a lot of teams go for things they may not go for. Like you see, especially in college, right? In college, I don't know how many times they go for fourth downs because college kickers, which is, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but that always surprises me. It's like you have the Justin Tuckers, the Harrison Buckers, you know, where the hell were they in college? Like where has it feels like there's such a drop off between college kickers and NFL kickers. Oh man, it's crazy. But back to what I was saying. Back to Thursday Night Football. Usually, if a kicker misses 7 points total, that's 2 field goals and an extra point. It's usually hard to come back from. But then you have on the other side, mistake after mistake after mistake. And this Eagles team is way too good to continue to make mistakes, to continue to make mistakes against and think they're not going to capitalize. Let's talk about what we saw from the Philadelphia Eagles. Because honestly, this Thursday Night Football game, we saw the highs that this Eagles team can reach, and we saw the lows that this Eagles team can dwell on. Jalen Hurts, if you look at just the stats don't tell the whole picture of how this game came about. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Washington Commanders 26-18. If you look, you think, okay, Jalen Hurts threw for 221 yards. Saquon Barkley rushed for 146 yards. It was a dominant game from the Eagles. At least offensively, that was not the case. When I said the highs of highs, right? When I said that we saw the potential that this Eagles team can reach, when you have Saquon Barkley running for 146 yards and looking as dominant as he was, there's a reason why a lot of people, including myself, thought that the Philadelphia Eagles were Super Bowl contenders. There's a reason why the Philadelphia Eagles do what it takes to go pry Saquon Barkley out of New York. Saquon Barkley is one of those type of players that can change the fortune of a team, can change the complexion of a team. And when he is running, when the offensive line is playing well, when he is running the way that he's running, on top of that, you have A.J. Brown on the outfield, you have Devontae Smith, you have Dallas Goedert. That is an offense that on paper could be unstoppable. Now, there's no question that Saquon Barkley is one of the best running backs in football. There's no question that Saquon Barkley is the main reason why a lot of people think that this team can be Super Bowl contenders. And Thursday Night Football was proof to that. And it goes back to my first point, mistakes. You're able to overcome 7 missed points from a kicker because you have someone like Saquon Barkley, and the team on the other side you're looking at makes mistakes as well. Whether you talk about an interception from Jaden Daniels, whether you talk about a failed fourth down attempt. Mistakes after mistakes. I knew you should have known how this game was going to go. When you look at the stats and you look at the fact that Washington is one of, if not the worst, rushing defense in football. Definitely bottom 5. And you're going up against a team that has arguably a top 3 running back in the league. Now, no, when you play teams like, if you make it far in the playoffs, you play teams like the Detroit Lions, or you play teams like the 49ers, that they're not going to be as light on the run as Washington is. But when you have someone, it's always, there's a reason why things, we'll talk about it a little bit later. When you have someone like Saquon Barkley, the highs are extremely high for you. But I also said that we saw the lows of the lows. And that's why I said the stats don't tell the whole story. I have to look at Jalen Hurts. I don't know if something's wrong with Jalen Hurts. I don't know. But there was multiple times in this game where Jalen Hurts missed easy plays. Just missed easy completions to a A.J. Brown, to a Devontae Smith. I go, when I see Jalen Hurts struggle, the thing that kind of takes me back is Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, struggles the same way that he struggled when he was in Alabama, when he was at Oklahoma. There's no question that Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. No question. There's no question that at his height, Jalen Hurts, and when he's playing his best, he is one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the NFC, but in the NFL. And I don't know, and that's why I think one of the underlining trends of this episode is going to be trends. What are the underlining trends? One of the underlining topics that this whole episode is going to reverberate around is trends. And what's so heads, which is why I don't know if he's hurt. If he is hurt, then I hope that he, I hope that he gets better. But I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback have so many peaks and valleys like Jalen Hurts. Again, when Jalen Hurts is playing at his best, he is a Super Bowl, at least appearing quarterback. In the Super Bowl, he was the best player. While obviously the Eagles didn't win, you can argue that Jalen Hurts was the best player against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts and this Eagles team isn't good. But what I'm saying is there are too many times where we see Jalen Hurts play as good as he was in the Super Bowl, have an MVP type season, have MVP type games, and then the next week or the week or 2 weeks later, you get what we got on Thursday Night Football. Multiple missed passes, multiple underthrows, multiple overthrows, multiple holding the ball for too long, which causes sacks. That was one of his biggest issues, and that's why a lot of people questioned when he was in college how good of a quarterback he will be in the NFL. I'm not throwing away Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is bad. But what I am saying is there are too many times where, mind you, if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley's 2 touchdowns, the Eagles would not have scored. The Eagles didn't score a touchdown outside of Saquon Barkley's touchdowns and field goals. And this is going against a Washington defense that isn't that good. Marshawn Lattimore still hasn't played. Jalen Hurts is good. This Eagles team is a Super Bowl contender, and I think that is one of the biggest red flags. That's one of the biggest concerns about this team. We talk about Nick Sirianni and his struggles, but Jalen Hurts has been struggling as well. And it's not the fact that he's struggling being a quarterback. He's struggling with being consistent. Right now, Jalen Hurts' consistency is inconsistency. Again, this isn't me throwing away Jalen Hurts. This isn't me saying they shouldn't have won. This is me saying I question how legitimate this team is as a Super Bowl contender because of the inconsistency with Jalen Hurts. But in the same breath, on the same coin, I also know that this team is a Super Bowl contender because how good the defense is or could be. Jalen Carter has emerged as a great player. This defense, Nakobe Dean, this defense is good. And they also have Saquon Barkley, who I would probably say how the season has gone, the second best running back in the league. And let's talk about Washington. As a Washington fan, it's very hard not to be biased, but I have to be honest about how I feel about what I'm seeing from this Washington team. The question that is going to permeate throughout the league this week is, has Jaden Daniels hit the rookie wall? Bart Scott said it. He said, the longest season you will ever have in your career is your rookie season because you go from college straight to training camp. Obviously, you have the draft and everything, and then you have your first season. So you really don't have a break between your last season in college to your first season in the NFL. You really don't have a break because you have combines, you have training, you have appearances, and then once you get drafted, you have training camp, you have OTAs. It's just tough. And you have to realize the college season isn't as long as you think. Now, obviously, it has been extended because of the college football playoffs, but it's not as long as you think. It's definitely not as long as an NFL season. So a lot of these players, a lot of these rookies, they're not used to playing as long as they played. And this is the second or third week in a row where Jaden Daniels doesn't look as great as he did the beginning of the year. I'm not saying that he looks bad, but he didn't. He looked bad. This was probably his first game since, I'd say, his first game against the Buccaneers, where he looked bad. Now, people are saying he may have a hand injury. I don't know. But what I do know is Jaden Daniels did not play well this game. And I'm not saying he's played bad recently, but he hasn't played up to the standard that he has set for himself in the beginning of the season. He hasn't looked like that the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And now Washington, if I'm not mistaken, is on a 2-game losing streak. It shouldn't be surprising, but my fear, my concern is not with Jaden Daniels at all. My fear and my concern is with Cliff Kingsbury. Let me first say that Cliff Kingsbury has been much better than I expected this year. Much, much better. I thought the whole coaching staff has been much better. I didn't think Dan Quinn was a good coach or a good pick for Washington. I didn't think Cliff Kingsbury was a good pick. I mean, I've been very vocal about it on this podcast, but they have been much better, and they've been great for Jaden Daniels and this Commanders team. However, this is more about Cliff Kingsbury than it is with Dan Quinn and the entire coaching staff. Because as much, yes, the Commanders, the defense isn't great, but the defense isn't as bad as it's been. The defense isn't regressing. The issue is the offense seems to be regressing. Now, you can point to Jaden Daniels. You can point to the offensive line. I'm looking solely at Cliff Kingsbury. And it's not because I'm just throwing him overboard. It's not. I'm not laying the blame at his feet for no reason. The strongest thing you can have in an argument is evidence. When you have evidence, it almost makes your argument, if you're maneuvering the argument well, it almost makes your argument concrete. It's almost hard to lose an argument with evidence because, I mean, that's what it is, evidence. We have evidence of Cliff Kingsbury as a coach in the NFL. Remember, he was the coach for the Arizona Cardinals. And what was the issue with Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals? The issue was the Arizona Cardinals would always start off the season hot. Remember, there was one year, I think it was a couple years ago, where a lot of people thought that the Arizona Cardinals were Super Bowl contenders because they had one of the fastest starts I've seen in franchise. Well, they haven't had a start like that since Kurt Warner. Kyler Murray was playing well. It just looked great. But the issue lies with Cliff Kingsbury has a reputation that his teams start off hot. But towards the halfway point in the latter half of the season, teams catch up to the offense. Teams catch up to the team, and they look bad or pedestrian to be good. To not be as aggressive, they look pedestrian. Teams catch up to Cliff Kingsbury teams faster, usually towards the halfway point. Well, we're a little over the halfway point in the NFL season, and what do we know? The Washington offense has regressed. It seems like teams have caught up to the offense. Jaden Daniels isn't throwing, there was a point in time he was throwing 70+% completion percentage. That has gone down. The running backs were blazing. That's gone down. The creative schemes that's gone down. Sometimes you are what you are. And I'm not here throwing away the Washington team. I'm not saying that Washington's not going to make the playoffs. I think they have a pretty favorable schedule going forward. And I'm not saying that Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn as the head coach have been bad. I'm not saying Jaden Daniels has hit a rookie wall. What I'm saying is this. Evidence tells a story. You watch Law and Order, they're always trying to find evidence. You watch court cases, they always have evidence to present, or they look for evidence to present. The evidence that Cliff Kingsbury has is, and the history that we've seen with Cliff Kingsbury is teams catch up to his offense. Teams catch up to his teams when he was the head coach. Well, I don't think there's any coincidence that the last few weeks, this offense, this team, or at least offensively, has regressed. You can say, is Jaden Daniels hitting the wall? Okay. I think it's a culmination of things, but I think the biggest ingredient is the fact of we're seeing the same old Cliff Kingsbury. The only difference is he's a offensive coordinator, not a head coach. Obviously, I think things can get turned around. And again, I don't think that this season is over. This is just one game, and you're playing against a team that you're competing with in the division for the top division spot. And again, I think there are some favorable matchups. We have Cowboys twice with Cooper Rush. We have the Titans. Winnable games. But I think there's a reason why the offense has quote-unquote regressed. It's because people have caught up to the offense, which is starting to become a calling card for Cliff Kingsbury. But congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for beating the Washington Commanders 26-18. I think before I move on, honestly, I think that the NFC East will be determined the last game of the season. As far as Washington plays the Eagles at home the last game of the season. I think the Eagles are going to continue to be good. I think that Washington has a lot of winnable games ahead of them. I think that the determining fact or the determining game that who's going to represent the NFC East is going to be the last game when Philly has to go into Washington. I believe that's going to be the case. And while this was a big game, there are still games to be played. So, again, congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for beating the Washington Commanders 26-18. And with Thursday Night Football, I'm now going to give my predictions for Sunday Night Football. Oh, no, whoa. For the Sunday slate, Week 11. Let me put my soapbox down for a second, because this is a very interesting week in the football landscape. Jesus loves you. Oh, man. I am struggling today. But this has been a interesting week in the football landscape. Let me first congratulate the NFL for doing the right thing a couple times. They haven't had a good track record when I talk about this, when I explain what I'm talking about. I'm talking about flexing games. I understand that it's difficult to flex games because you're dealing with different networks and dealing with different time slots. I get it's difficult. I get you're just unable to flip a switch and unable to just flex a 1 o'clock game to a Sunday Night Football or a 4 o'clock game to Monday Night Football. I understand that there's a lot that goes into it. Again, different networks, different time slots. We have to see if the stadiums are. I get it. But I will say that the league has done a good job in flexing time and time again. They flexed a couple games that I remember they were notorious in flexing. They flexed a couple Jets games this year and last year. And they flexed a couple Broncos games last year when Russell Wilson was the starting quarterback for the Broncos. So they have a track record of being able to do it. I just understand the difficulty. Before I give my predictions for this week, I look at this week and I look at the incredible games that we're going to get this week. I look at Baltimore and Pittsburgh, obviously one of the best rivalries, one of the most physical rivalries in all of sports. You have the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills. We know the history that has. We obviously the reason why a lot of the overtime rules have been changed for the playoffs is because of the Chiefs and Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes going against Josh Allen, 2 MVP candidates, one team that's undefeated, the other team that has hopes to get to the Super Bowl. There are, Green Bay at Chicago. I understand that Chicago's struggling, but you have the number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams going up against Jordan Love. It's a rivalry between the Bears and the Green Bay Packers. What I'm saying is this. I look at that Monday Night Football slate, and I understand. I see Houston at Dallas. Obviously, it's an in-state rivalry. You have C.J. Stroud going up against it's America's team, quote unquote. But you have a lot of games. Mind you, the Green Bay Packer and Chicago game, that's a 1:00 game. The Baltimore at Pittsburgh, that's a 1:00 game. The Kansas City Chiefs at Buffalo is a 4:25 game. So it's like mini prime time. What I'm saying is this, man. You see that Dallas is without their starting quarterback for the rest of the season. Dallas has struggled all year. Hell, we can even go to Sunday Night Football. You have the Cincinnati Bengals at Chargers. Again, one team has been much better than the other, and the other team, obviously the Cincinnati Bengals, they're fighting their way to get into playoff contention. They need to start stringing some wins and fast. But it's like, why not flex? Why not? And you can't say that, you don't want. I think last week or two Thursdays ago, we had the Ravens and Bengals. I get it. But I think last week we had the Chargers. I mean, not the Chargers. We had the Texans playing primetime football. And now they're playing it yet again. All I'm saying is there are great matchups that would highlight the best aspects of the NFL, like the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers, like the Cincinnati Bengals and Buffalo Bills. Why are those games not primetime games when we have to get the Houston Texans that hasn't had the greatest season due to injuries and everything, and the Cowboys? That's all I'm saying. I just don't. The league has done a great job flexing. Again, I understand that you'd be taking a CBS game and moving it to ESPN. I get it, but they've been successful other times. I don't understand why they weren't successful this time, because now we have to sit through Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, but it's probably going to be Cooper Rush. So, I don't know, but let's go back to predicting these games. You have the Green Bay Packers at Chicago Bears. Chicago just fired their offensive coordinator, and I talked about this, 2 episodes ago. I said fit matters. That is a big underlining topic on this podcast. Whatever sport we're talking about, fit matters. And if your head coach doesn't have a scheme, or the coaching staff doesn't have a scheme that suits your quarterback, your best player, then you're always going to be playing behind the 8 ball. And you want to talk about regression. The Chicago Bears have regressed to the point. It's hard to look at. You have people questioning if Caleb Williams should have been a number 1 overall pick, because you see how good someone like Jaden Daniels has been playing, or someone like Bo Nix has been playing. I'm like, no, Caleb Williams should have been a number 1 overall pick. It's just you should have made sure that your coaching staff knows how to coach a type of quarterback like that. And it's actually been proven that Matt Eberflus and this coaching staff does not know how to coach a player like Caleb Williams, because they failed to do it against a player that's sort of similar in Justin Fields. I'm not saying that Matt Eberflus is a bad coach. I'm not saying that this is a bad coaching staff. What I'm saying is you're coaching. That's like me, right? That's like me getting a job at a pharmaceutical company. That's like me getting a job and getting hired to be a plumber or to be an electrician. While I can watch YouTube videos and try to figure out how to do it, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm not suitable for this thing. Of course, I can do a baseline because YouTube is the friend of us all, but I'm not equipped to do that. I'm not saying that Matt Eberflus is a bad coach. Please do not hear me say that. But what I am saying is when you planned for this, they let Justin Fields go. They essentially tanked for Caleb Williams. A 2-year tank for this guy, and you did not make sure that your head coach knew how to properly build a system around him. That to me is damn near malpractice. And I say all that to say, you're about to go up against the Green Bay Packers. While yes, they have problems of their own, they are a much better team, and they're coming off a bye week. I got the Green Bay Packers beating the Chicago Bears handedly. Because while you have one coach that knows how to coach his player, Jordan Love, while yes, Jordan Love has issues, one of the issues that you've never really thought is, oh, this system doesn't fit Jordan Love. When you look at the Chicago Bears, the first thing I think of, while yes, Caleb Love does have his issues. I'm not just absolving Caleb Love of all the issues that are going on with the Chicago Bears offense. But if we're talking about like a blame pie, a large chunk goes to the fact of you have a head coach that isn't equipped of coaching that type of player. And I don't see them, I know it's a rivalry game, but I don't see them rising up and slaying Goliath this week. I got the Green Bay Packers beating the Chicago Bears. While yes, the Chicago Bears defense has been good, obviously it doesn't matter. Their offense can't score. An offense that has Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet can't score. It's a cold world we live in, man. I have the Green Bay Packers. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars at Detroit. I talked about this last episode, man. The Detroit Lions is the best team in football. I'm not saying that they're just automatically going to win the Super Bowl, but they are the best team in football by far. We just saw Jared Goff throw 5 interceptions against the Houston Texans, and they still won the game. And it was a hard watch, but there wasn't a doubt in my mind to say that, oh, this team sucks. No, it's like they're just having a bad game. And you're about to go up against a Jacksonville Jaguars that does not have Trevor Lawrence. This is going to get bad, I think. While Mac Jones looked okay last week, he's not Trevor Lawrence. And on top of that, even with Trevor Lawrence, this team is not – the Jacksonville Jaguars aren't good. This is, in all accounts, a failed season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I say all that to say I have the Detroit Lions. And you're in Detroit? Yeah, I have the Detroit Lions being the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Detroit Lions is the best team in football, hands down. And I have them beating a Trevor Lawrence-less Jacksonville Jaguars. You have Minnesota at Tennessee. Now, the hype train for Minnesota, more specifically, Sam Darnold has definitely gone down. Sam Darnold has regressed. Now, he hasn't regressed to a point where this Minnesota team isn't good. This offense is unwatchable, but he is not. There was a point in time where a lot of people were saying that Sam Darnold was an MVP candidate. And rightfully so. He was, they were one of the last unbeaten teams in football. I still think that this defense is incredible. I still think that, Aaron Jones has been really good for this team. I think that obviously Justin Jefferson is one of, if not the best wide receiver in football. But Sam Darnold has regressed. The interceptions are starting to go up, and a lot of the issues that we've seen majority of his career are starting to rear their heads late. I say all that to say, though, you're going up against a Tennessee team. While, yes, Will Levis did come back to the starting lineup, and I think they're better with Will Levis than they were with Mason Rudolph. I just don't see much with this Tennessee Titans, especially a Will Levis going up against a great defense. I don't see it. I know they're in Tennessee, but I just Calvin Ridley has been incredible as a wide receiver one essentially for this team, but I just don't think it's going to matter. You're going up against a tough defense. And while Sam Darnold hasn't been great these last few weeks, I think the defense is going to be able to carry them, especially when you have some of Will Levis making some of the most head-scratching, I'll say, plays we've ever seen. I'm going to go with Minnesota beating the Tennessee Titans. Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Miami Dolphins. This is the Raiders, bro. They're just a mess, and I'm not saying I think they have the right coach. It's just this is what you see when you don't have the right personnel, when you don't have a quarterback. They keep double dutching between quarterback. Gardner Minshew, shocker, is not a starting quarterback, and on top of not having a starting quarterback, on top of Gardner Minshew not being that good, you're going up against a team that while Tua is better than a lot of he's better than Gardner Minshew. While Tua has struggled as of recent, and they did win their last game, but it was against it wasn't that good of a game. I have the Dolphins. The Dolphins, they have Tua, they have Tyreek Hill, even though Tyreek Hill, I think, has a wrist injury. I think he's supposed to play. They have Jalen Waddle. They just have a better team. And that you're looking at a team that while they're struggling, they know who their quarterback is compared to a team that thought for some reason thought Gardner Minshew was going to be that guy. No, I have Miami beating the Vegas Raiders. LA Rams against the New England Patriots. LA is playing essentially for their playoff lives from this point moving forward in the season. This is a team that has been ravaged by injury majority of this year, and that's the team that Miami just beat. I have the New England Patriots. While Drake May has been a lot better than a lot of people thought, this team still isn't good. And you're going up against a desperate, I would think, Rams team, especially after losing last week. I have the Rams. This connection is still strong between Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And the defense, while the defense isn't great, I don't think that they're going to have much of an issue with the Patriots. Now, they are playing outside, but, it is what it is. I have the Raiders beating I have the Rams beating the New England Patriots. Then you have the Cleveland Browns at New Orleans Saints. Both teams are a mess. Both teams had high hopes, especially the New Orleans Saints. They had high hopes going into this season. I mean, the Saints were the best team in football for 2 weeks. The Cleveland Browns, while they have looked better, with Jameis Winston than they did with Deshaun Watson, and they've been much better. Their best win of the season obviously was against the Ravens, but if you really look at that game, the Ravens had every opportunity in the world to win that game, and they didn't. Jameis Winston going up against Derek Carr. Nick Chubb going up against that defense, which ain't great. But then, this is tough because both teams aren't that good. I'm gonna go with the Cleveland Browns. I think the best unit out of both squads obviously is the Cleveland Browns defense, and hopefully Nick Chubb gets a healthy dose of touches. And Jameis Winston, while he is going to throw a bunch of interceptions, he is also going to throw a bunch of touchdowns. That's just his career. I have the Cleveland Browns beating the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, they're just a mess. Alvin Kamara is good, obviously, but they're just a mess. The Indianapolis Colts at New York Jets. Now, this is a big game for a lot of reasons. This is a big game for the Colts because this is the first game that Anthony Richardson was unbenched. And they're hoping that the spark that they thought they were going to get with Joe Flacco, they're going to get back with Anthony Richardson. And surprisingly, mathematically, the New York Jets are not mathematically out of the playoffs. While it is damn near close to zero, mathematically there's still a shot. But this New York Jets team sucks, man. They're not good at all. And I want to be fair with Anthony Richardson, who hasn't looked good. I'm not gonna lie, but hopefully, being benched and the time away from the starting position has changed him. So I'm gonna go with the Indianapolis Colts. I think Indianapolis, I think both teams are struggling, but they're the nightmare season that is the New York Jets just continue to roll on. So I have the Colts beating the Jets. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. In my opinion, the biggest game of the week. This game right now will determine who is number one in the AFC North, which has regained its spot as the best division in football. You have Lamar Jackson going up against Russell Wilson. Mike Tomlin going up against John Harbaugh. Derrick Henry going up against Najee Harris, both Alabama boys. A lot is being said and a lot is being made about this Ravens defense, and rightfully so. This has not been, in fact, this has been almost the polar opposite that it was last year. Last year, this was a historic defense. This year, it is an historically bad defense. I talked about this last episode, but yes, they are the number one rushing defense, but number 32 passing defense. That's an easily manipulated stat, because if a team knows that you're so bad on the pass, why would I run? So yeah, you don't have to really stop the run when I can just get all my points from the pass. Where you look, most teams throw the ball like 50 times against the Ravens because the Ravens defense isn't that good. Now, I don't know if Kyle Hamilton's going to play. That's going to be huge. And we do know that this Pittsburgh offense, especially when we talk about the deep ball with Mike Williams now, with George Pickens and Russell Wilson throwing the moon balls, Pat Freiermuth, there is opportunity for this team to get big plays, because that's seemingly what every team is able to do against the Ravens. And I will give the fact that the Lamar Jackson has had 3 kryptonites seemingly his entire career. It has been the Kansas City Chiefs, it's been the Tennessee Titans, and it is the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has a losing record against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's like 1-3 or 0-3 or something like that against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game is going to be solely based on what the Pittsburgh is able to do defensively. I think that it's going to be tough, obviously, stopping the number one offense or statistically the number one offense in the AFC. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I think Baltimore, with Lamar Jackson, the run game, with Derrick Henry, it's going to be tough stopping them. And you could get to a point where I don't know Highsmith is going to be playing or not for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're going to get to a point where it could be a shootout. And if it is a shootout, as we've seen most of this year, I don't know if Russell Wilson can keep up with Lamar Jackson right now, who is the clear front runner for MVP in my opinion. I know Pittsburgh has an incredible defense, and like I said, Lamar Jackson struggles against Pittsburgh, but I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. So that is who I'm going to pick. I think it's going to be an incredible game at 1:00, might I add. You have Atlanta at Denver. Denver has been sneaky good. They lost in a heartbreak last week to the Kansas City Chiefs, blocking a game-winning field goal. Again, Kansas City just continues to find a way to win. But I think Atlanta lost last week too in ugly fashion. I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Falcons. I think, and I believe Mike or Dan Graziano said it. The matchup in this game is whoever wins the matchup between Patrick Surtain and Drake London is who's going to win this game. I think if Drake London has a big game, that opens the field for someone like Darnell Mooney. That opens the field for Kyle Pitts. But if Patrick Surtain is able to keep him on lock, I think it's tough. Because obviously Drake London is Kirk Cousins' number one pick or number one target. I think Denver should have won last week. I'm actually going to go with the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix has played much better than I thought he'd play his rookie year. And the Denver's defense is much better than the Atlanta Falcons defense. So, and Denver almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs are better than the Atlanta Falcons. So, I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. Seattle at 49ers. Seattle, I know it's a divisional game. You throw everything out with divisional games. That's kind of what I feel about the Ravens and Ravens and Pittsburgh. Divisional games, you never really know. However, I know this is yet another week where Christian McCaffrey. No, I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. Seattle has had such an up and down season, and so is the 49ers, but the 49ers are getting healthy. Again, Christian McCaffrey's back. That should definitely help against shaky defense. I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think the 49ers are better. I think Brock Purdy is better right now than Geno Smith. And, Kansas City Chiefs at Buffalo. If this was the playoffs, I would definitely say Kansas City Chiefs. But apparently Buffalo has a winning record against Kansas. Buffalo and Josh Allen has a winning record against the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season, and they're playing at home. However, the Buffalo Bills is dealing with a myriad of injuries, whether we're talking about Amari Cooper, whether we're talking about Keon Coleman. They have a bunch of injuries. Now, I understand that Harrison Butker, who is the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, is probably going on IR. That's huge. But you're gonna need Josh Allen to go Superman, and while he is at home and that is an advantage, I don't know if he's gonna be able to do that against a Kansas City Chiefs team that is getting healthier. So I'm gonna go with Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's gonna be a good game, but yeah, those injuries, there are some crucial injuries that the Buffalo Bills are dealing with right now. So you have the Cincinnati Bengals at Chargers. Now the Chargers have one of, if not one of the best defenses in football, and their offense can get rolling with Justin Herbert, with Gus Edwards, with J.K. Dobbins. Quentin Johnston is starting to catch passes. But you're going up against the Cincinnati Bengals team that, while they do struggle defensively, they have an opportunity to go prolific on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I think Joe Burrow leads the league in passing yards. I know Jamar Chase leads the league in receiving yards. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that while, yes, the Chargers team has been great defensively, they haven't played an offense, or they haven't played an offensive weapon like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. And this is literally desperate time for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals essentially has to go they have to damn near win every game to even have a shot of making the playoffs. And I think that Cincinnati understands that, even though their defense is still a little shaky. I'm going to go with, even though Trey Hendrickson is like the league leader in sacks, I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. And Monday Night Football, Houston at Dallas. Cooper Rush is playing. End of story. I have the Houston Texans. Cooper Rush is trash, bro. Now, yeah, Houston does have their issues, but if you lose to a Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys that are pretty much reeling, yeah, it's going to be tough. Those are my picks for Week 11. Let me know what you guys think. I said earlier in this episode that the underlining theme of this is going to be trends. And I want to look at two teams in the NBA, and I want to talk about, is their recent success sustainable? And the first team I want to talk about is the Cleveland Cavaliers, the only remaining undefeated team in basketball. They're currently 13-0. Obviously, they're not going 82-0. That's just not happening. But one thing that is beneficial, very beneficial, is how their record plays out. And what I mean by that is Cleveland has had one of the easiest schedules in basketball. Yes, they've played the Golden State. I think their toughest opponent has been the Golden State Warriors, and they did beat the Golden State Warriors by 40 or 30. But they've had a pretty easy schedule. The toughest part of their schedule is ahead of them more than behind them. Now, it is still early. There's only 13 games in. But I will give credit where credit is due. They're one of the best scoring offenses. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they are. Yep. They're the number one offense in basketball. And they're one of the best, not the best, but they're tied for best defense in basketball as well. I think that the emergence of Evan Mobley, obviously we don't talk a lot about Jared Allen, who has been incredible defensively, and he's a walking double-double. The reason why I think that you're seeing a lot of this success is because of the marriage between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I think it's very tough when you're a guard and you're a number one option where you were just at, and then you go to a place where their number one option is a guard and used to getting the ball. That's why you saw a lot of times there was a lot of reports saying that they don't coexist well. One person has to go. I think with Kenny Atkinson, who was a phenomenal coach, I think they're going to be good. I don't think that this team is. I think right now is a trend as far as how good they are. I mean, I never thought the Cleveland Cavaliers were going to be the best offense and tied for the best defense, or one of the best defenses. But I will say this. While it's a trend that obviously they're not going to go undefeated all year, they have a shot to, because the East is so bad, they have a shot to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, there's only three teams in the East currently that are above 500. That's crazy. 3 teams. In comparison, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 teams in the West that are over 500. So I think that there's going to be a drop off, but I do think that we're seeing the manifestation of what we thought we would see when you brought over, or when Donovan Mitchell goes over to the Cleveland Cavaliers. A really good offense, a really good defense. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen is coming to their own. While I still think, I mean, again, the Boston Celtics aren't healthy right now. Jaylen Brown is in and out the lineup. Kristaps Porzingis still hasn't played. I still think that they're the gold standard of the East or basketball right now when they're fully healthy. But I do think that the Cleveland Cavaliers, while they're really good, I don't think they're the best team in right now. They are, but I don't think that when everything is fully healthy, I don't think they're the best team in basketball. But I do think that with how poor the East is, I'm still looking at the Knicks, and the Knicks could be really good. Who knows? But I don't think that they're going to be able to keep up this pace, obviously. But yeah, they've been really good. Damn, 13-0 is crazy. Another team that I keep hearing that they can't keep it up is the Golden State Warriors. Right now, Golden State damn near plays their whole team. They have like a 12-man rotation. Now, the thing that you hear the most is they can't keep it up because when you get to the playoffs, right, your rotation, the rotations usually shrink. It goes from like 10 to 11 to 9 and 8. Like, you want to play your most trusty people. You don't know who you really can depend on, so you just know the ones that you can depend on. They're in the rotation. And right now, Golden State, who is by far the best bench in basketball because they play the whole damn bench, a lot of people are saying that's not sustainable. And while I do agree with the fact of, especially when you get closer to the playoffs, it is not. It's I've never seen a team that has been successful in playing 12 players in a rotation in the playoffs. That's just a lot of people that you have to trust, and a lot of those people that you're trying to, it's tough. But I do think that their defense, I mean, they're one of the best defenses in basketball because when they're a small, undersized team, they've pretty much always been. You have to be able to swarm to the ball. You have to be constant movement, almost a fanatic defense and a fanatic offense, and that's what the Golden State Warriors have. Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. Draymond Green is still Draymond Green. I don't think that they're happy with the development or the slow development that they're seeing with Jonathan Kuminga, but he has had his moments. Obviously, Andrew Wiggins, he's played much better than he did last year. I don't think that when you put them up against any team in the West, like, I don't know if they're in a 7-game series, if they can beat a fully healthy Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm still looking at the Denver Nuggets, even though they've struggled with consistency with their role players outside of or consistency with all of their players outside of Nikola Jokic. I still don't know about that. Grizzlies fully healthy, I don't know. Yeah, Minnesota, even though they're 6-6 right now. Dallas, even though they did just beat Dallas when they're fully. Dallas did. Fully healthy because you still have PJ Washington. He didn't play. I'm looking at that Phoenix Suns team, and while when they're fully healthy, and you have KD, you have Devin Booker, you have Bradley Beal, all of them are incredible scorers. They still don't play no damn defense. So I think that Golden State. Here's this. I think Golden State has a good shot of finishing top 4 in the West because of how they play. Golden State, while yes, they are small and they're going to struggle with bigger teams like the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder when Chet gets back, they still have a shot. Now Chet got hurt in the Golden State Warriors game. And Golden State obviously ended up winning that game because that just throws, and you don't have Isaiah Hartenstein with a hand injury, that just throws their whole rotation into whack. So I think Golden State is good, and I think that I don't think they're title contenders, but I do think that they have a shot to beat. Actually, you know what? Yeah, no, I don't think that they can beat Boston in a 4-game series. So. Or a 7-game series, so, but I do think they're good. Lastly, before we go, you know what? I am not going to talk about this because I don't know. This happened. I'm recording this Friday afternoon, Friday evening. I don't know what happened with the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson thing. I know Mike Tyson slapped the hell out that dude. I don't know if it's real or not. Again, while I'm recording this, I don't know. It's happening tonight on Netflix. I don't know what we're gonna get. I really don't. I don't know if it's real or not. I think Jake Paul is gonna win, but that's because Mike Tyson's he's 52 or something like that. I don't know. So I'm not even gonna discuss it. Good luck to both people, and I may, if it's a good thing, good fight, I may talk about it on Wednesday's episode. I don't know. We'll see. And there you have it. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want a Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible. If you like the content, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe, and it definitely means a lot. Please subscribe. Also, from my DSP listeners, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your DSPs and wherever you're listening to Unpopular Podcasts, please follow, please subscribe. It means a lot. I understand that, there's 5,100 podcasts. So the fact that you're listening to me means so much. I appreciate you guys. So again, whether that's YouTube, whether that's SoundCloud, whether that's Apple Pod, wherever you're getting the Unpopular Podcast, please follow, please subscribe. It means so much to me. And also follow the socials, follow Instagram, follow TikTok. I post pretty much daily there. I missed Wednesday's episode because my whole computer pretty much went down, but I was able to get it fixed. I appreciate you guys for asking me what happened. I don't plan on missing it again. So if you want to, I pretty much post real stories every day. Follow the socials. Until next time, much love.